Welcome to the Coffee Experts Club. If you're at all interested in anything we talk about in this episode, go ahead and check out the description down below, or if you even just want to know more about us, click on the links below. Now on to the episode.
Yes, Coffee Experts. Good to see you guys today. Ben and Drew. Drew, back in Belize, back in the saddle. How's it feeling?
Feels like home.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Love that. Ben, did it feel like coming home to you when you didn't have air conditioning and you had your newborn and you were trying to juggle it in a sweaty tropical environment?
Yeah, no, especially when like the power was out for almost a day on the island. That was terrifying. I don't think
only almost a
day.
He was like, power out, bro. That's like a once a week occurrence at least.
It would have been cool if I didn't have like a 1-year-old who I was terrified of getting heat exhaustion inside the hotel room.
No, bro, there's no way around it. And Drew, it was the best. Drew sent out a message yesterday to our contractor and he goes, guys, update on the AC because the AC is not working on the front end of the North Branch. And so he's like, guys, any update on the AC? Sweaty baristas is not a good look for us. And sweaty baristas hanging out a window is not a good look for us. Something rad. It was so good, Drew.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh, man. Well, coffee experts, if you don't own a coffee shop in a tropical environment, thank the good Lord, because if air conditioning goes down, that was our grand opening, right? Drew, grand opening of the North Side, no AC, no fridge, only an ice machine, and one blender plugged into one power source. We had the whole thing going. It was amazing.
We made it work.
We did work. Hey, man, like 1,000 cups. I mean, I'm not gonna brag about nothing, but I mean, let's get serious. It was a good day. Awesome. Well, hey, coffee experts, we thought today we would talk about, as we're kind of in the wind up towards Christmas, heading towards the new year. How do you make strategic decisions that maybe challenge the norm sometimes? I think all of us can get into the rut of, we do this because it's what we've always done. Like this is how it's always worked, and I do think that having standards is a really good thing. So don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm an operations guy. I'm all about efficiencies. I'm all about, let's not rewrite the book every time we have to do something. And I feel like we, all three of us, right? All three of us operate from that mindset. Ben, I know you created the whole handbook for roasters. I know that building off of Taryn's like masterpiece, you continue to build and rolled it out to over 150 employees, 15 locations. Like, I think coming back to like some sort of framework is a good thing, but always leaving enough ability for us to be more agile than that. We aren't Starbucks. We don't have 300 fours, like we're not like a Dutch Bros human being, BlackRock. That's not the size of most of the people that are tuning in here. And some of the beauty of that is the agility of being able to pivot when you do need to pivot, making strategic decisions.
Yeah, it's the superpower of a small coffee company is being able to switch on a dime. I mean, even at Roasters, when we had those 15 locations, we were still pretty nimble. If we put something out and, on the menu, if you put a drink out and it was garbage, we were like, whoop, pull it out real quick. Or, we're putting new hard goods out and there's there's a typo, or new menus and there's a typo on the menu. Whoop, swoop it up real quick and you can change it all out. So, I mean, that's, you should always be, especially as a small coffee company, looking at what the big players are doing, knowing that if they're doing something that works, you can adopt it really quick. If they're doing something that is causing them pain, you can avoid that or switch what you're doing really quickly. It's a superpower and it's a way that gives you a competitive edge against those big players.
I think it's also good to keep your teams nimble because when you get stuck in a rut, it can be hard to introduce something new. I know sometimes we had a problem with our older baristas when the business transitioned. It transitioned so much so fast because we grew so quickly. Some of the old guard had a hard time moving on to new ideas, new systems, new ways. So regularly implementing new things, I think, is a good way to keep people fresh, keep people ready. And everybody likes growth.
Yeah. I think actually a really good prime example of that was when we introduced our own energy drink. And then from there, when we first were going through the process, we started, because we'd been using Red Bull. We started with, okay, well, we'll can our own energy drink just like Red Bull, because we're just like, energy drink comes in a can. This is how we do it. And obviously that was, that wasn't as much cost savings. Like we were having to produce cans, purchase cans, pallets of cans for this energy drink. They have to fill it, yada, yada, yada. And then I think it was you, Aaron, that came up with the idea, well, why don't we just have soda guns? And even with that idea, I was like, no, that sounds like I don't know about that. And even for myself, it took a little bit to convince me, like, hey, we could do this. We could do this. Because I immediately was like, well, that's another machine. That's more tech. They got to clean it and all of these issues. But really being nimble, being able to say, hey, no, we could do soda machines. And let's just run our energy drink through a soda machine, a bag in a box, just like you would go to McDonald's and get a Coke. You could go to Roasters and get an energy drink on tap. And it saved us a huge amount of money compared to actually canning the process. We're not throwing away 1,000 cans a day. It saved us on delivery for our dry goods whenever the managers order, because we were able to pack, 100 cans of energy drink into one little box that we just mixed with soda water on the go. So it was a really good decision that we wouldn't have done if we had just said, nope, energy drink only comes in cans. That's the only way we can do it. Or we can't make an energy drink. We can only buy Red Bull. Our customers will only drink Red Bull. We can't change it. That's just the way it has to be. We would have missed out on opening, essentially 2 more shops off of the back of those savings.
Yeah, I think it saved us something like 50 cents per cup of energy, per fluid ounces of like, as far as filling a cup of energy drink, it saves like 50 cents per. And honestly, though, I think that's a really good example, Ben, because I think, when I talked to the BlackRock guys about fuel and they were still putting in cans, I'm like, guys, like, do you know how much you could be saving if you just moved to energy drinks? And there was a real big resistance on it because they're like, yeah, but quality control. And I said, guys, the amount of money that you could save on that, you could pay somebody 70 grand a year and have them just drive around to your locations and brick each one of these machines if you're that concerned about quality control. And you would still save money hand over fist on the amount of savings that you could get by just moving to a soda gun. I think that's a really good one. I think something at a smaller level that Drew and I have been dealing with. And I think, I want to give you guys practical examples, listeners, as you tune in for Coffee Experts. One of the biggest things for us that we want to do here on Coffee Experts is give you practical ways that can save you money and give you the competitive edge against the big guys that are out there. The Coffee Experts is really designed for the independents. Like that's the reason we do this, is the independents that are out there that are going up against the bigger players that need a competitive edge. And so that's why we've created things like Coffee Experts Academy. If you haven't checked that out, coffeeexpertsacademy.com, like we give you 35 modules of ways you can save money, systematize, think through things that can actually drop down your cost of goods, increase your income, so you can be a competitive edge. But one of the things that Drew and I, to give some practical examples of how we've been up against it in Belize, is Drew called me on Monday night and he goes, bro, this machine is giving me grief again. Drew has been just having to become one of the most comprehensive techs. Like, eat your heart out, Cody Anderson. Like, Drew has gotten so far into the belly of the beast on these things, with taking apart these machines, these La Marzocco machines down in Belize, far beyond, he could work on machines when he lived here, but nothing like what he's had to go up against in Belize, for just how hard the environment has been down there, the irregularity of power has been down there, the way it's melted down these machines that Drew has just had to get so deep into. Anyway, Drew reached out and he said, hey, we're going to need X amount of dollars to fix this machine. We're gonna have to order it in parts. And I said, whoa, wait. Let's pump the brakes. Did you say this amount? Didn't we just buy a new one of those machines for 2/3 more than that? So this is a third. The price we're gonna have to pay in parts is a third of how much we could get into a new machine. No, like let's pause. We can fix that machine later. Let's actually just buy a new machine, because if I can buy back some life into Drew Moody's life, you know what I mean? Like, this dude carries so much stress around our machines. This is literally how we make our money. Let's just bite the bullet. I know it's for us, it's coming out of slow season. We're not sitting super cash deep right now to go buy machines, but it was like, no, if I can save Drew that much stress and it's only 2/3 more than what we're going to spend on the parts, let's pivot. Let's make a strategic direction instead of me just continuing to fuel, or Drew continuing to fuel parts to try and fix a machine that has had consistent problems. Let's just buy something new. And I felt like it was a good thing that he and I worked through and talked through, and pros and cons were like, yeah, let's do that. And so I think that making sometimes the challenge of, like, I'm not just going to do what normally we've always done. Let's just pivot and make a different decision that's a better strategic direction for the company.
And I could get stuck in definitely the old way of wanting to just figure it out as we go, obviously, as the story you just told. The problem, one of the problems with this particular situation for me is it's not like I've been dealing with the same problem on repeat.
That's right.
It's been multiple years of new problems all the
That's
time.
right.
And, fixing this and fixing that and fixing and just in sequence, something will break and I'll replace it and so on for multiple years, probably due to the same underlying issue of our, the dirty power. Um, and so there's a certain point, and I think we finally hit it where it's like, okay, the system that we're using does not really match our situation anymore. And it may have when we had one machine, that was fine. Two machines, that was fine. But now we've got, three active espresso machines, so many grinders, so many ice machines. There's a lot of pieces of equipment that are constantly needing to be serviced. And that can be the same situation can be applied to a lot of our systems internally, how we deal with employees or how we deal with vendors. It's have we jerry rigged this together to work for the past and for our
Right.
past problems, or are we working this system into something that won't work for the future? Is it something that works now as a band-aid, or is it something that we're building in order to be more efficient for where the business is headed? And I am guilty of being stuck in, no, let's just make it work. Let's just figure it out, make it work. It's working for now. And it's good, I think, to question that where those thoughts come from sometimes.
Well, I think frugal, right? You're just being, I'd like, so
Yeah.
I want to be clear. You're always thinking of like, how can we spend the least amount of money to fix this, which I appreciate about you. Like, I feel like you're always thinking from a frugal perspective, but there are some times where multiple frugal choices would have all added up to a better decision in the long run if we just, well, that's all I was challenging.
That is true. I think right.
With the amount of repairs we put on this machine, we could have just bought a new machine by now, right?
And how much life we've bled out of Drew's. Like, I mean, I'm watching the guy just like age. I'm like, bro, like let's slow down the aging process on Drew Moody by cutting some stress out of your life.
Before you know it, he's
Drew,
gonna be having a kid.
Drew, you
Yeah,
are sexy. You're still sexy. Don't let anybody tell you different. I'm just saying, I'm trying to save your young youth.
just silver fox now instead of a young guy.
Oh
I
man,
love it. I think,
I
I
think
think what you guys are hitting on too is that's probably, I think that's where most of the getting stuck in the rut and not challenging norms comes from. Is I think primarily it comes from just that, like, where are my dollars going? I got to
yeah,
pinch every penny.
right.
We see a lot of coffee shop owners who are doing really well, and they've got 3-4 locations, 5 locations maybe, and they're still like operating like they have one location. Like,
Yep,
bro, you're making good money. You don't have
yep,
to
yep.
squeeze life out of every group head gasket. You buy 12 more and have them in the back. Like you have the revenue for it.
Right.
Or when it comes to energy drink or blending
Yeah,
powder, making those decisions, they have the revenue, but they're so stuck in the no. We've got to make sure that we squirrel away every single dollar. But at the same time, you as an owner or an operator, you at some point have to challenge yourself and say, hey, actually, if I make a mistake, if I go and purchase a pallet of blending powder and it
yep,
sucks, my business isn't going to die. Sure, I
right.
might be out $5,000, $10,000. That sucks. That hurts for sure. But your business isn't going to fall apart. If you've gotten to that point where you're a stable 4 or 5 locations, you've got the revenue coming in, challenge yourself and say, okay, can I start making decisions on new locations? Can I start making decisions with my money and not just pinching every single corner to try and save every dollar? Because that's the joy of getting to that 4 and 5 location mark where you've got a steady revenue stream coming in that you've got the opportunity to invest somewhere else, invest in a new location, invest in cost savings. But that's not going to happen unless you look at yourself and say, hey, get out of the way, old me who just had one location. Let's start thinking a little bit bigger than that.
I remember something Wes said to me when we first started DrinkWorks and we're helping people create their own energy drinks. Um, and man, we put a valiant effort into DrinkWorks. Which if you're out there and listening, and you're thinking about creating your own energy, we'd love to help you. DrinkWorks.energy. But um, I remember Wes saying, because I was having a really hard time getting coffee shops on board, and he goes, "Hey, you're probably going to have a hard time with people being brave. A lot of people just aren't brave. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of people that just do what they've seen everybody else do, and it may take a little bit to get people into that brave thread." And I will say, for all of Wes's like the back and forth with Wes, I think that one of his greatest strengths was he was brave. Like he did get out there and challenge the norm. He did get out there and do crazy stuff. You know what I mean? And sometimes too crazy, but he did get out there and challenge it. And I think that to his credit, like you were saying, Ben, when we created his energy drink, like we opened 2 locations that year just off the savings that he made in 1 year worth of savings of moving to his own energy drink. That's huge. That I
Mhm.
mean, he literally grew 2 locations out of savings. Like that's I mean, legendary kind of stuff, you know? And so I think, so now we've got Indie Coffee Coalition where we've bit the bullet. We've just made our own proprietary energy drink, and we offer that to small indies where it's a fraction of the cost. But you're able to I'm able to cut you down from like $50, $60 per can of energy drink, down to like 60, 70 cents. But if you make your own, you can cut it down to like 17 cents. I mean, like that's
Mhm.
huge savings when it comes to how you're growing things. Another way that um, Drew and I have challenged the norm this last season. This was all Drew. This had nothing to do with me. I thought it was a great idea though. Um, we had this realization of one of our managers is brilliant with systems, so good at systems. And the other manager is great with people. People love this manager, right? And like as far as employees. And so we had this idea of, they were both managers of independent locations, but they both were struggling in the other's weakness, right? Like this one over here that was really strong with systems was having a little bit tough time with people. This one that was really strong with people was having a little bit of problem with systems. And so we thought, this was Drew's idea, hey, what if we create one team, between these 2 locations where they share baristas? They each have an independent assistant manager, but these 2 managers actually become umbrellas in their strengths. You know what I mean? So one of
Mhm.
them overall, and one of them is over all the systems. Because I think we could actually get a more efficient, better running machine if we actually treat it that way. And I think, we've seen, Ben, I know you and I've seen it on certain sides. Drew, you and I've seen it on other sides of different coffee companies that we're consulting right now, where they've moved to a multiple location manager system, where it's like one manager is actually managing multiple locations and only having strong assistants in there with one,
Mhm.
cost savings. It's a logistic savings. But Drew, I thought that was a brilliant idea, and I'm excited that we're going to roll that out. I think it's going to really help our island locations.
Thanks. I think that there's some ground basis that you should not change, though. There's just to push back a little bit on this concept. There are things that we've wanted to try. I mean, Aaron and I come up with new business ideas every week, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Sometimes as we're like, okay, we can't do that. What does the core of our business look like? We've had a client that told us that they were doing prints, they were doing food, they were doing all sorts of stuff. But when they really took a look at their business there, that they thought, what is it that we want to do? What is it that we value? And they
Mhm.
decided to scale it back to just coffee.
Yep.
There are opportunities that come our way that we're just either not ready for or not something we're passionate about. And if we're not passionate about it, the delivery isn't really going to be something that's going to be good for our customers. Now, I say all that to say, I think that being in an uncomfortable environment, I mean, in Belize, it's all new to us. It's
Yep.
unknown. We jumped into a whole new space. We're Americans. We know what America is like. We jumped into a space where we didn't really know the variables. We didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into.
Mhm.
But there's value in that experience as well, because when you are challenged on your ideas, you can get creative and figure out exactly where you can pivot. What is it that you're willing to change on? What is it that you're willing to bend, or completely rework? What are the systems that you hold dear and will always hold dear
Right.
to your mission and your purpose? And what are concepts and new ideas that you can bring in to really elevate your business to the next level? And I don't think you get that if you just do all the same things all the time.
Mhm. No,
That's
it's
good.
true. It's true. I mean, we somebody had to start the energy drink revolution at coffee shops. I mean, Starbucks wasn't doing it. It was the
Right.
biggest player, right? And at some point, somebody said, "Hey, we've got a big market that doesn't like coffee, but they come here with their significant other. They come here with their mom or dad. Like, what are we doing? Like, they're not going to just drink Italian sodas all day long. Let's give them something too." And I'd love to
I
know
think it
who
was
it is.
Dutch. I really think
You
Dutch,
think it
at
was
least
Dutch?
Dutch was the one that full on peddled it out their strongest. You know what I mean? And I will say, Ben, like to challenge it, like they were the one that came out there and started that new trend. And they were one of the first ones that created their own energy drink with Rebel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that like to give them some credit. And now let's be honest, from the feedback I've gotten off Rebel, Rebel sucked at the beginning, right? Was nowhere near as good as Red Bull. You know what I mean? Whereas I feel like our Indian energy drink and even roasters back in the day, I felt like their energy drink I think was really strong as well. But sometimes, like Drew's point, sometimes it doesn't always work out. You know what I mean? Or I think he's
Mhm.
used to that. Sometimes it doesn't always work out, but they stuck to it and they refined it and they made it a little bit better. And I think you're right. Like it takes those big brave steps.
And now, if you open a coffee shop in the States and you don't have an energy drink, you're losing 30% of your 40% of your sales just by not
Revenue
having
opportunity.
one singular product.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good to challenge those ideas. You don't challenge them unless you get a little uncomfortable, and you never know. Like a single idea like that could, in essence, revolutionize the industry that you're in if you're just willing to be a little bit brave and step out and say, "Hey, this could not work, but I'm going to try it anyways."
I love it. Well, gentlemen, man, Ben, you're getting ready, I think, to have a kiddo here any day, which is a pretty big deal. Drew, you and
Literally
me are
any day.
yeah, you and me are getting towards Christmas and all the crazy that happens right around Christmas time, going to coffee shop. So, coffee experts, if you're feeling a little bit crazy, just know you're in the right spot, listening to the right dudes. Thanks for Ben might not even be here next week for paternity leave. So, again, Ben, we wish you all the best on your little guy to come, and Drew, we wish you all the best on front lines of coffee down in Belize for Christmas. And coffee experts, we hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next week here on Coffee Experts Club.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. See you.